Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Justice and Peace's guest speaker series. Today is May 11th, and it is a very special day because it marks the series' 300th guest. And to honor the success of this series, I would like to welcome the host and founder, Mr. John Paul Rodrigues. Big congrats to you, JP, for reaching 300.
Thank you very much, Roxanne, and certainly wouldn't have done it without students like yourself and Rochelle and Jasmine and Bryce and everyone who's been involved in bringing speakers in, and there's a lot more than those people. So it's really amazing, actually. I think that we've got 300 people in just over a year. I think when we started it, I think the big thing there was it was just an idea to do something. I thought, this pandemic, we're going to be home for 2 weeks. Let's bring in, a couple people to make it interesting while we're in lockdown. And here we are, May 2021, and we're still in a lockdown. I think our third one now. And so we just kept going, and it's been really great having so many different perspectives come in and speak to the students. And certainly anyone can be watching now. So again, with the benefit of technology, one of my good friends, Chris Turatton, was the first person I brought in. And I don't know if you were there, if you remember, but we were trying to figure out how to get him into our Microsoft Teams meeting in class. And we were using Skype and having to mute mics in different places. And, to what we have now, we have us here on Zoom. We have it streamed to YouTube there later on. I think there's a lot Instagram, everything's kind of gone in a different direction from when we started, and it's great. And I think it's going to hopefully keep growing. And I thought, on a Sunday, I'm going to be speaking to a number of undergraduate students through this group called Pre-Law Shadowers. And I'm thinking, well, why haven't I spoken to my own students here in this format? So here we are. So looking forward to talking with you today, Roxana.
Thanks, JP. And today I will be hosting the interview. So the tables have turned a bit. I will be asking you questions and you will be the one answering. So I'm going to start off with my first question, which is usually how all our speakers go. I want you to share about yourself and what led you to start the Justice and Peace's guest speaker series.
So as most of my students know, I went to law school at Osgood, graduated about 12 years ago now. So I was studying law. I was always interested in law. I think going back, I know a lot of our guests are like, oh, I just decided into law somehow later on. But for me, I think I was interested even when I was very young. So I knew that was a path. I think at one point, every time I go visit my mom, I at one point saw, an old assignment where it's I wanted to go to law school and be a lawyer when I was, I think 8 or 9 or 10 years old, something along those lines. So something I've always wanted. And after completing law school, I went to teach overseas in China for a few years. And after that, I decided, certainly there's a whole story in there as well that we can probably talk about, but I came back, did my articles, was called to the bar in 2013 and started working as an associate lawyer for about a year. And from there, again, went back into teaching, started my own practice, worked as duty counsel, and I've been at a couple of different schools, mainly at Algonquin Careers Academy, where I teach, as well as at Trials College, where I'm also the paralegal program coordinator, which I've had for the last couple of years. So I've been doing that for 6 years total, teaching here in Ontario at the different paralegal colleges, and in the last couple of years, again, as the coordinator. And when the pandemic hit, I was like, what can we do to engage students, right? It's very easy. Most students aren't on camera. You don't know if they're just lying in bed. I don't know if my jokes are going over because no one's responding. I don't know what's happening, if people are absorbing the material. So I thought, let's do something creative. We can bring in people via Zoom or I didn't have the idea of Zoom at the time, but bringing people to speak to the class. And from there, it just was very easy to contact other people, because before, when I would bring speakers to the class, and I don't think I taught you outside of a remote environment, but it was a challenge because I had to coordinate with their schedules, get them to come to the campus itself, or when I would teach in Mississauga, I try to convince people to go out to Square One for a 6 p.m. class after they've been working. It's a long commitment, right? A 30-minute talk becomes like a 4-hour commitment of getting there and to and from, and maybe going and talking afterwards, whatever. So here it's pretty easy. You log in at 4:57 usually. I have 3 minutes with the speaker beforehand, as you've seen. We just go a quick, here's a couple things we want to talk about, and away we go. And by 6 o'clock, you're done, and you've made a 1 hour commitment. It didn't take any much more time than that. And it was pretty easy then getting people on that same format. Yourself, Rochelle, reaching out to different speakers a lot of times there. And every day we would typically, we've had probably a couple days where we'd had a cancellation or something, but it just kept going. It had a life of its own. And we've had plenty of different people. We've had leaders of political parties. We've had judges. We've had paralegals. We've had lawyers. We had people in the mental health field, people talking about diversity. So much different perspectives. And I think it's so important for students. Even if they miss a class, you can recover by doing the homework or getting the notes from somebody else, but you're learning from 300 different people. Where can you really say that? And I think now the importance is getting that out to the community. Anyone can watch this, even if you can't afford maybe to go to law school, or you don't have the time for paralegal college or anything. Anyone can tune in and watch a different lawyer, different paralegal, a judge, whoever, and learn from them and connect with them. The other part here that's really important for why I did this was the mentorship aspect. I want students like yourself to be able to reach out to some of our guests and say, hey, I really like listening to you talk about criminal law. I'm interested in getting into criminal law. Do you have any ideas or suggestions of what I can do to get into the field and make those kinds of connections? So, it has kind of had its life of its own. And again, every day, 5 o'clock, typically weekdays, we've had different people in, and it's been great. And I think now it's looking at getting beyond sort of the students I teach to anyone interested in law and wanting to learn more.
Thank you for sharing that. And as you're speaking, I'm looking at the wonderful Justice in Pieces logo behind you. So I'm going to ask, what does the Justice in Pieces name mean to you, and what's the mission and goal of the series?
Right, so I think I kind of touched on that, but the name itself, I thought of something, let's be a little creative. So it's kind of a play on justice of the peace, as well as my initials, JP. But in essence, everyone's a little piece. Every speaker that comes in has their own perspective, right? Everyone looks at the justice system where they think, there's a certain path to get involved as a lawyer or a paralegal or however, but everyone has a unique story, right? And you have a piece to this big system that we have, our justice system, our legal system. And that's kind of where the background for it is to hear different stories, to hear different perspectives. Again, judges, lawyers, law students, paralegal students. Try to get all different aspects in there, and focus on diversity, certainly. And I'm sure if I went and looked at the numbers, we've had a very diverse selection of people from different backgrounds, from different areas of law, again, different roles in the legal system. And I think it's important to give those perspectives, as I was saying before, because someone is going to resonate with one student differently than somebody else, right? Maybe you're not going to take a perspective. Maybe you're not interested in criminal law, but you're interested in corporate law, and you want to hear from a partner from a Bay Street firm. Or maybe someone's story is going to really resonate for you, right? So it's kind of bringing that to the table, finding someone you can connect with, and that's really where we are. And certainly, thanks for mentioning the logo. I have to shout out my wife there for designing it, and she's been heavily involved in certainly getting it beyond just for the students, but working on social media, digital marketing. Again, all of this is done. It's free. It's not. We want to make sure that students and anyone really has access to justice, learning about the justice system. It's completely free to use, watch, connect with. We also have trivia and things like that, and looking to do more different events and activities. And again, I want people to be able to engage with the justice and the legal system and legal education, and to be able to do so without it costing you any money.
So you were destined for this role, JP. You've touched on this a bit, but can you share about the 299 speakers you had so far?
So, 299, or I guess down 300, it has come really quickly in terms of, again, having people every day, every weekday. And certainly we've had, I think one day we had 3 people. I think students really pushed to have someone in the morning, and then we had a couple of people in the evening, and we've had a couple panels and things like that. But I think, again, certainly every single one, and obviously I've been there for every single one, and I think you've been there for almost every single one, but they have a unique story, right? I mean, there are people where, there's areas of law. I think a couple of weeks ago, I think it was Sean Finn who was in class actions. I'm like, I'm not really interested in that kind of litigation. I didn't think it would be very fascinating, very interesting, but again, it was, right? So you can't go in and think, hey, I'm not interested in this area of law. What's going to be the benefit here from listening to that person speak? Certainly we've had Jagmeet Singh, we've had Honorable Andrew Scheer, Elizabeth May, right? I mean, those were people that would frankly be impossible to get otherwise in person, right? I mean, considering where they are location wise. And I think that's great if you're interested in politics. Law and politics have a great intersection, right, in terms of the laws that are passed, right? The judiciary then may send laws and say they're unconstitutional. So it's understanding our political system. And I know we've had a lot of members of parliament, members of provincial parliament, former politicians, people looking to get into politics, city councilors, all sorts of things like that. And then every different area of law, I mean, I try to tie it into what the students are learning at the time. So for example, next month, we'll have employment law, sort of bring in some more employment lawyers. So it kind of ties into the material you're learning. But I mean, otherwise, I see something interesting. Somebody posts something interesting on LinkedIn, even marketing. I think you brought in Michael Mendel there, who's really big on TikTok. And again, I won't be able to highlight all of the people, but every single one of and this is something I think is really important. Every single person that's come on, they've done it voluntarily, right? I mean, certainly I'm volunteering my time. Every one of the students are volunteering their time. My wife's volunteering her time, but all of the speakers come in and they're, a lot of them very high profile, and they're willing to do it in terms of the pursuit of legal education for the students, right? So that they can gain from that. Certainly taking the time there to share their stories. And it's great that everything here and people have been so kind and friendly about sharing their perspectives, and people to have the ability to learn from them. And I think that's exceptional. And again, there's been so many people, and a lot of it now is recorded. So even if you've missed something, you can always go back and rewatch. And I think that's what I'm looking at getting out there to the public or anyone interested is you can go and listen to our interview from Jagmeet Singh there from last summer. You can go and listen to talking to Mayor Patrick Brown from later on in the year, right? I mean, they're all available. And I think what I want to do is kind of group them by areas of law. So if you're really interested in criminal law, you can listen to Jordana Goldlist, you can listen to Chris Surratt, you can listen to your firm, their Roots of Law, when they came in and had this amazing 2-hour presentation. I mean, and John Struthers, the president of the Criminal Lawyers Association. I mean, there's so much available. I think if you watch, I think there's about 175 or so videos available now, because we started doing the recordings and streamings about late summer into the fall last year. But I mean, if you watch them all consecutively, I mean, it's probably deeper than some TV series libraries. I mean, almost running an hour each episode, so to speak. So, I mean, there's so much there that you're going to find something captivating. And I hope you sort of connect with those people because they're great and they have a lot to share.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm actually going to jump in and answer this question myself. Attending almost every one of the speakers, I've learned a lot, and it's been a true blessing to have this at the exact time I started school as well. Some of the things that I've learned is hearing each person share their background and experience. I think when I first started at the paralegal program, I had no idea what I wanted to end up in. I had no idea what I was going to do with my degree, just practicing law, but it was very vague. And being able to hear so many people share their journey in law and where a legal education could take them it's been nice because I've been able to gain insight on all the different jobs available. It's not just you get a paralegal degree, you're a paralegal, but where you can go after that. And especially the timing of it being during COVID, it's been really nice to hear about other people's experience in the profession, just being a student and hearing the ups and downs of the pandemic, and with the courts not being open, hearing other people share their experiences at courts, their first court experience, and learning experiences from that has been able to replace actually going to court, because that's not an option right now. And also having the opportunity to connect with each and one of the guests. They each bring their piece to my whole education, and having that opportunity to develop mentorship relationships and reach out to the speakers that resonate the most it sets myself up for the future. So I actually like every speaker and I have them saved in my YouTube. And those are the pieces of justice that I bring forward with me. And whenever I can, I could look back at them, and just knowing that there's something there for me, a resource that I could look back to. It's really nice. So I'm going to jump into my next question. And this is about the Justice and Peace's website. And along with the website, you also have a blog, you have LinkedIn, you have Instagram, Facebook, and also a Twitter account. And on top of that, as you've shared already, you've spent a lot of time marketing and planning the series in order to ensure that it goes on every day, every weekdays. So can you please share a bit more about what goes on behind the scenes of the Justice and Pieces series?
So, I mean, I think a lot of it, certainly on the digital marketing and social media side, goes again to Anastasia there, that spends the time developing, creating the posters, creating sort of the graphics and things that we use there, the quotes and everything. And from that, certainly students like yourself there, I mean, you're kind of behind the scenes, so you know what it is. If there's somebody that you're interested in reaching out and bringing in, then I tell you, go and connect with this person and see if they'd be interested, and let's find a date and time. And I just have a list of the dates. I go into my Zoom and I say, well, okay, we haven't put anyone for this date, so let's try to get. And sometimes I forget. There'll be like a holiday, and I think, oh, actually, that's not a day off. We'll need somebody on the 17th. But I just kind of compare that and then see who we've reached out to. I'll reach out to quite a bit of people myself. Now, in terms of the website, again, this sort of started, I mean, initially, this was just the thing for students that I was teaching. We'd have it on Microsoft Teams, and if people could come into Teams, they would come right into the class meeting and talk there, and it was over, and I would share their email address or LinkedIn or something so you could connect with them. And I think it was when we had MP Jenny Kwan came in. I thought, a lot of people would be interested, but I can't have them come into my class. There's sort of a privacy issue there. So what can I do? And then I looked at, okay, well, we can have someone on Zoom and they have this ability to stream it to YouTube, and then anyone can watch the YouTube link. So there's no issue of knowing who's there in class and things like that. So that's kind of where that idea came. And we did it for a few speakers. And then eventually we said, well, why don't we just do this for everyone? And so it's just getting the link set up, making sure somebody's contacted, whoever been in charge of getting that person. The website then kind of came about trying to make it easier to access things. And I think now on Instagram, we have a link tree where it's even easier. But I mean, everything on the website pretty much, I've kind of learned how to use WordPress. And when I was really young, I was really big into computers. So it was kind of like a throwback there to kind of figure out how to do things and play around with the formatting and the fonts. But I mean, I've pretty much done that entirely there on the website by myself there, figuring out how to do things. So it's kind of been like a little hobby project for me. I think at some point I'll hopefully get somebody or a volunteer who's interested in kind of maintaining it. I know there's things like SEO and stuff like that to figure out, but I'm entirely on that, and that's what I work on, and then certainly on the visual and the graphic, and that my wife works on, and then getting all the speakers. A number of the different students like yourself have been crucial in reaching and connecting, as well as even former students. Today, I had an old student of mine send me a message, say, hey, you should really get this person in. Here's their contact, and I fired off a message, and they'll hopefully be coming in sometime in June. So it takes a lot of different people to help, and it's really gone pretty smoothly. Some people step up when others are busier with class, or when I'm busier with stuff. So it works really well that way.
And to add on to that, what my role is behind the scenes is finding speakers to join and also trying to consistently raise awareness about the series. I think it's hard to reach that audience because surely there's a lot of people interested in law that would like to learn, but it's about finding the series and knowing where to access it. So once the website started rolling, the focus for me was sharing posts and drawing attention to our website, showing how to use it, just so the audience could know where to find the links and knowing that it's a weekday recurring event. Once you know where the website is, you could find all the speaker events, prior events, and upcoming events. So just raising awareness on that. And my next question for you, you sort of touched on this already, but where do you find your speakers? And with the variety of speakers that you've already hosted, some of them also being international ones, do you have a specific target of who to recruit as a guest, or how do you go about that?
I mean, there's no real method to the madness, so to speak. I think if a student comes and says, "Hey, I'm following this person. They have really cool posts. Maybe they'd be someone great," then either they will connect with them and coordinate a date, and then I'll explain, it's being recorded and streamed, and if everything's okay, and then I'll send them the Zoom link and the YouTube link if they want to share it amongst their network as well. And again, I mean, the only thing I try to do specifically is whatever courses I'm teaching. So usually in the evening classes, they have something. For example, right now they are doing landlord and tenant and alternative dispute resolution. And then in the morning, they're a little behind. So they just started not too long ago, but they're doing tort law and ethics. So try to find something that's kind of a medium from there. I mean, I certainly teach at another school where they're learning something different as well, but try to draw upon those. I mean, when you have 20 people each month, even if you get 2 or 3 from each area, you've done a good job. And then sometimes someone's whenever they're available. And it may be I see a post and I think that's a really great post. I think there's someone there that's coming on the 31st that I just saw something yesterday. And I was like, Roxana, can you send them a quick message? I think that'd be someone great to come and talk to the students. And sometimes, I mean, I look at it and like, well, where can we get more people where we have a shortage? And maybe try to get someone from overseas. One of the big groups of people that I really enjoy listening to was the network with the book there. I think I still have to ship out a copy to you actually, and try to get all of those people to come in and talk, right? And what else is something we would find interesting? Someone from the UK, we had someone from Costa Rica, right? I mean, it's I think at some point I'd like to have like a week of just people from all over the world. I think another way to take it, but I mean, other than that, I mean, I just look at the dates, and if someone's available on a date, then just slot them in. And if they're not, then try to find some time for them a little bit later. And so it's really worked. I mean, certainly I've reached out to students and asked, hey, who are the kinds of people you'd be most interested in? We had a survey, I think, for your group about a year ago. I mean, I should probably do something like that again. And sometimes there's names mentioned, and I reach out to those people, or they reach out to those people, and here we go.
And I'd wanted to share the way I first came about inviting guests. This was when the series first started, and I was watching CPDs. The LSO actually had a red tag sale, so there was a lot of CPDs for free, and I went all over it. And during the course, whichever course I was taking, I can't remember at this time, I'd look up the CPDs and watch whatever is relevant to it. And there is a lot of panelists that I've learned a lot from, and I'm actually like an auditory learner. I learn from listening, and whenever I'd hear a panelist that really resonates with me, I'd want to hear more from them. So the Justice in Pieces was that nice platform for me to be able to reach out with those panelists and invite them, because it's COVID, you can't really invite them for a coffee, but instead inviting them to the guest and as a guest and having them join the series was the way that I've actually been able to find some speakers of that really reflected what I was studying at that time.
And it's good that you mentioned CPDs. I mean, I think for any licensees that ever stumble upon this, my understanding is when I reached out to the Law Society, I mean, for the substantive hours, and I think there's no restriction on videos right now because of the pandemic, but you can get all of your substantive hours. If you look at the length of a video, and say it's like 40 minutes, maybe probably not this one, but I know when we have substantive law talks there, it's like 45 minutes. You can watch that and claim 45 minutes of substantive hours for your CPD for free. And if you find like 10 different videos, you can get your 8 hours there, and then you would just need to focus on the ethics, which is the accredited portion from the Law Society. So I'm not 100% entirely sure that's completely accurate, so don't quote me on it. But when I reached out to them, they said, yeah, you just you watch the video, you have some way to prove that you watch, maybe you keep the link and you report it in your portal, and then you can claim the hours. So another incentive there for licensees. I mean, I know it's really expensive and people have lost quite a bit of work over the last year, but it's not necessarily an intentional way, but I mean, unintentional now. I mean, another benefit is that lawyers and paralegals can get free, almost all of their CPD hours by watching a number of the videos. So I think that's something that people can certainly gain from by watching and finding something in their area of law, especially.
And with scheduling speakers every weekday, I can imagine there's times when there's last minute cancellations. So how do you go about dealing with that? And what sort of contingency planning do you have when that happens?
For a time, I think we were really good at someone would cancel. I mean, not that many to begin with ever really do. So, I mean, I've never really had to worry too much about that. But I think I can think of at least a couple of times where someone had canceled in the morning, and whoever was able to pull someone else for 5 o'clock, like within like that afternoon lunch break or something. And they'd be like, oh, I have a replacement all lined up. So we would just go ahead. I think of late, I mean, it's been few and far between, but of late, I think I've been okay with, let's just do something else maybe and take a break and come back, or have someone come at 4 o'clock like we're doing today instead if need be. But I think there's only been maybe a handful of times where we've just had nobody because everyone seems to be there. And it's remarkable though, because of court and things that could come up, that I mean, I would say like 99% of the time it's gone without a hitch.
And what plans do you have for the Justice and Pieces series in the future? I know you mentioned having some guests internationally, and at that time I've imagined the globe and the Justice and Pieces logo all over it. So hoping that COVID ends at some point, do you plan to continue with the series?
I mean, I think as long as we're studying at least remotely, there's a great value. And even not if in person, I think you could always have, the PowerPoint, or not the PowerPoint, I guess a projector screen up, and people could watch within the room and you can get audio there. I don't know if it's as effective as it is now when you're in your own home and listening. So I think as long as people are interested, I mean, we've always had webinars. I know for my own CPDs before, I mean, you could go in person, and the big advantage of going in person for like the Law Society events is they'd have a nice breakfast spread or lunch that you'd get included in your CPD price. So other than that, I mean, people were watching at home on webinars, and it was, again, very informative. So I think the importance there is, if people are interested in coming, it's a great way to learn. I'm going to continue to do it, even if it's, again, now it's beyond just students at in the college that they're learning. So I think there are a lot of people who are interested and just coming and stumbling into the series very recently from all different schools. So I think they're going to be more interested in continuing on. So plans, I think, try to get some more variety. I'm looking at, I mean, first I want to reach out to some of the people I had before we started recording and say, hey, it'd be a great time for you to come back, update us on what's going on. And I think I'd like to do a little bit more panels once in a while. It was great. We had the Confronting Anti-Black Racism panel there with Deborah, Ryan, and Leon in February. And I think certainly getting different perspective. I'd love to have like a moderate kind of like a little debate, having, let's say, someone who is on the Crown side and someone on the defense side on issues, or discussion, not necessarily a debate, trying to do some things differently. I think I'd like to have maybe not so often, but maybe once in a while, something earlier in the day, like a lunch type of thing, or maybe a different platform, like maybe LinkedIn lunch, every Thursdays or something like that. So that people can connect on that platform, as well as the morning students have the ability to do something live. So different things like that, I think are great ideas to have. And certainly just getting newer perspectives out there, things that maybe we've not found our way. I think we can have more people from Indigenous communities. I think we've certainly done a lot there for in terms of diversity, but even disabilities. There's people who are practicing law with physical or mental disabilities that don't get highlighted, right? In terms of, even I learned about having the transcripts and stuff like that. If someone can't have visual impairments or hearing impairments, how can they benefit from a series like that, from podcasts, right? So looking at maybe different ways we can engage with different people, and whether it's, again, more politicians, some people might be interested in, more lawyers, more paralegals, more practitioners, trying to have maybe a series. Again, these are the things you can try to map out months in advance, right? In terms of, well, hey, maybe we could have Mondays being criminal law, Tuesdays being provincial offenses, Wednesdays being small claims, Thursdays, things like that. So it kind of makes it easier for people to kind of tune in for certain things. But I think the best part is having variety. And as you mentioned yourself, just, you don't know until you listen to someone's story who's going to resonate. I've had students over the last couple of weeks message me and say, I didn't really plan on listening to Carla, for example, and her story was so heartwarming and really inspired and motivated me. And again, it was just maybe fate that drew me into tuning in, because I was just busy, and I just said, why not? Let me go and listen. So I think you have to keep putting out content, and eventually it's going to find the people who it needs to find. And because it's recorded, I just gave an assignment for students I had the other day for legal writing, which was watch 2 videos, summarize them, and then make a recommendation to your fictitious lawyer or paralegal that you're working for, because they need their last hour of CPDs there for the year, which one to watch and why. So it's great to be able to bring some of this into the classroom like that. I know I had Garrick Apollon from UDocs, and they're really big on learning through video, and I think that's perfect in terms of engagement. We're at a time, even after the pandemic, there's always going to be online education, right? It really took off because we were forced into it, right? Could you imagine your program just got shut down in February last year, and you'd have to wait to become a licensed paralegal to be able to write the licensing exam? Well, life goes on, right? We have to kind of overcome the obstacles that we face. And right now, we're dealing with a pandemic, right? We're getting vaccines and things like that, but we had to continue on with education. And so it's providing that outlet for students, law students, paralegal students, high school students, university students, wherever, as well as lawyers, paralegals, or anyone interested in law, right? I've had people message me saying, hey, I'm not really a law person, but I'd listened to so-and-so talk, and it was really interesting. I didn't know that perspective. So again, it's all about access to justice. And I think as long as people want that knowledge, and I'm able to do it, and I have the time to do it, certainly as it's hard with respect to finding the right time to be able to put something like this on. I think it's really important. For instance, we talked quite a bit about mental health last week. It was Mental Health Week, but people need to learn, right? As much as people, may say things that you want them to say, you also have to learn the reality is that we're in a profession where people work a lot. I work a lot. Tonight I'm going to work like 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. Then I'm going to teach till 1. And then I'll have a couple hours. I'll have an interview tomorrow at 5. Then I'll teach again from 6 to 10. And get a couple hours and then back at it, right? I mean, some days are like that, but you got to make sure you take care of your mental health as well. I mean, there was some great advice from people last week, and I think the biggest takeaway is find what works for you, right? In terms of whether it's a lawyer or a paralegal or a judge, whomever, what are they saying? What are they sharing? It may resonate with you, right? I mean, they may have a tip that you may not have thought about, or you could take a hybrid approach, right? By taking a little bit from one and another. Not every single speaker is going to connect with you in the same level, right? But you won't know who it is that will resonate with you until you go and listen to them. And I think that's why it's important to get a number of different perspectives. I used to teach, I still teach it, but critical thinking. I don't know if you were in my class at the end there, but I would tell students, go and watch your favorite TV channel, or read your favorite newspaper, but go and read a different one that you wouldn't read, and read the same story and look how it's covered in one versus the other, right? I mean, it's important to get different perspectives, but because even if you go back to what you believe, at least you know what the other side's argument is, or you know what other people think. And maybe you're not so strong in what your position was, so it's good to get a different perspective as well. But kind of went a long route there, but just to say that hopefully to be able to continue doing this and continue to provide different pieces of justice there, and hopefully, again, students, as long as they're interested and want to learn, and we can look at doing more new and innovative things. I mean, I'm a big fan of innovation in education, and certainly whether it's things like Kahoot that we've used tremendously, or just finding other ways to engage. I think it's really important for legal educators as well as students to connect in different ways, because we are online and we are remote, and we may always have a piece to our education in a remote way. I mean, I think my evening students can attest to the fact that there are like 1,000 messages in our classroom sort of chat live while things are going on. People are posting memes and asking questions and polls and stories, and you would never have that in person. So, every time I have a prospective student reach out about studying online, I say, well, yes, I mean, it's going to take a lot more commitment. And I think it was last Friday, I had a first year student from Osgood, Jen Laura Stanley, and she said, the biggest thing is actually getting up and getting ready as if you're going out to the classroom, even though nobody's there, and you're going back and logging on your computer. But it's about doing things like that make it seem like you're in school still, and not just, there's Zoom fatigue now. But I think those are kinds of things of why these things are going to be still important, but you have to find the time and the place for everything. And certainly I hope, a year from now, and we're not still smack dab in the middle of a pandemic where we're still stuck at home. But I think there's always going to be a need to just tune in on your computer for a bit, and rather than make the trek to campus to learn. I think there's always going to be a hybrid approach. You can go in person, or you can stay and learn online. And I think for the people who are better learners, they would maybe want to be in the classroom because they need that in-person experience. But I think others would prefer being home, and they'll be able to access the materials in the same kind of way. And what works best for you won't necessarily work best for the person sitting virtually next to you as well. And same from the instructional point. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of instructors who would die to be back in person because they missed that in-person engagement. But I mean, there are others like myself that says, well, I don't know why I would ever want to go back into the classroom, because I have probably more engagement now. I'm not making an hour and a half commute each way anymore. And I have that time to put back into school or whatever I want to do. So, I mean, you're going to have that on both ends of the spectrum.
Thank you for sharing that. And reflecting on the pieces that I've taken away from the past speakers, you were mentioning the different pieces you've gotten from each speaker, and it made me think of what I do whenever I have a speaker that really resonates with me. I actually have a list of recommendations that they would give, whether it's books or websites or things to watch, apps and programs. I remember there was a speaker that was talking about Clubhouse, and I've heard about it on social media, but I had no idea what it was. And just learning about it was very helpful, as well as law Twitter. On Twitter, the hashtag law Twitter, that has opened a huge door for me to a lot of things that you could access online. And I think with each speaker, there's their introduction is kind of like an elevator pitch. So even if it's not a legal speaker, there's still something I take away with each and every person. Hearing the way that they speak, the way that they talk about themselves, their elevator pitch, and my favorite part, the last part, which is the words of advice. It's something that I'm gonna take with me everywhere I go. And having the series has also helped me with my study habits. It's helped me schedule my days. I felt like it was nice to have a routine that I had morning classes, and after morning class at 5 p.m., there's still something to look forward to. There's still something to learn from. And having that continuously, it's been a benefit for me. And also, I can't really imagine some of the things I've learned, like with PC law and U law, but learning that yourself or in a classroom setting, looking at an overhead projector, it wouldn't have been as nice as actually having someone join from U law or PC law, even Clio as well, and show us and speak to us and have that saved. I think when I open my own practice, I'd still be referring to those videos, and it's nice the component that it gives for free. Um, and even with the P1 license being online, hearing the experiences from the test takers that have done that online, and I could imagine if there was no Justice in Pieces, that would be something at the back of everyone's head, what it's like online and what are the differences and practices to take away on how to succeed. So um, there's a lot that you could take away, and it's about attending every speaker, and even if it's not something that you thought would be something you would take away from, giving that chance to everyone to open up and share their story. Um, a lot of things that resonate with me are people's journeys to success. So their stories on how they've dealt with their failures and how they got back up and picked themselves up. It's nice, and it's a benefit to be able to engage in that kind of conversation while in the comfort of your own home.
I mean, I totally agree. I think that's really one of the main reasons there, right, is to be able to bring people to your living room or to your computer or wherever your office is. And they're far more experienced in so many different areas than no, I mean, certainly instructors have a variety of experiences, but if we're not practicing something every day, we're not going to be able to give you that kind of insider perspective, the same level that someone is doing that, right? I mean, especially with all the different, I mean, encourage students to find a few areas that you're really interested in and focus in on them, because it's impossible to learn all the areas of law, or even like 5 areas of law so in depth. So I think it's really important to be able to bring in, I mean, even like Clio, I've never used Clio ever. I mean, I hear all about it. It's, the next wave. It's a great success story here for a Canadian company, and it's taking off. But it was amazing that I think his name was James there from Clio came in and shared all about what it's like. And I think hopefully we're going to be able to use it a little bit more in the classroom. But I mean, there's an example there that everyone can learn from, right? Or if you're using U law, for example, or you're using PC law, whatever. I mean, how are you going to form an opinion? Certainly, we've had those seminars, not in Justice of Pieces, but where you could go in and listen to the LexisNexis people show Lexis Advanced Quick Law, right? I mean, though it's great, right? You can do all of that from the comfort of your home, and you can bring in all of these different people in to share that. And I think that's, again, really the big takeaway for students is take advantage now, because you would have never gotten, I mean, for your group of people, I think, some of them just graduated obviously a couple months ago, but whether it's 50 to 100 to, I mean, all 300, that's a very unique opportunity. And I'm really proud of everyone that's involved, whether it's the students, whether it's my wife, and everyone to help bring this together, because it's exceptional that you hear from such people for free every weekday, that you should just seize that opportunity and engage, because they're sharing so much insight, and you can always connect with them afterwards. I think the big takeaway is people forget about that. Connect with them afterwards, start a conversation with them. You've probably even learned this from a lot of the speakers on LinkedIn there. Don't just come in and ask for a job or something, but connect with them, continue the conversation, and they'd love to continue talking to you. And it's a lot easier now. Instead of setting up an actual coffee, you can do a little virtual session. And it's really important to have those different perspectives and continue with those different perspectives, because you never know where that door might open, or they may introduce you to someone that's going to open a door for you. And the more people you network and connect with, the better your opportunities are out there.
Thank you so much, JP. And as we're coming to the end, I was wondering if you could share some final words of advice for the audience, those who are watching, those who are thinking of joining as a speaker and might have some things to share, and anyone else thinking of getting involved in the series and inviting guests themselves, or even those thinking of starting their own series. Any words of advice that you'd like to share?
Right. So I would say, first of all, for any students, get involved. I mean, if you want to go and bring in a speaker, it's really important to do that. I mean, I think you gain a lot of that perspective. You make a connection. They'll remember that you reached out to them. And certainly I think you could echo this yourself and take advantage of that. Now, for anyone who's interested in being a speaker, I mean, I've had a couple people approach me saying, hey, I know you do this. I mean, I would love to talk. I mean, it's great. It makes it a lot easier. And certainly we're looking for different perspectives, different people from all over the world, students, lawyers, paralegals, judges, I mean, even non-legal professionals, as they impact, we've had forensics people in, we've had entrepreneurs. I mean, everything about we can benefit from, as students can benefit from, or anyone listening can benefit from. So I'd always encourage anyone who's interested and wanting to speak out, or even if you want to put on your own kind of things, do so. I mean, there's nothing stopping you. It doesn't take that much. I mean, you don't even necessarily need to get the paid Zoom subscription, but I mean, other than that, and just getting a link to where it is, I mean, you could be bringing in people. If you would like to, I know there's a student in the Kitchen campus did something not too long ago, but anyone could do these types of things, and it's great to find something you're interested in. And even if it's not law, I mean, if you have a side passion, for me, like I love like professional wrestling, and someone I'm on the board of the directors with at the Durham Community Legal Clinic told me, hey, I used to have a wrestling podcast. And I'm like, well, that's great. I mean, that would actually be something I would have loved to have done. And whatever it is, I mean, now's the time to take advantage. So I would say, in terms of any other advice there, that the way I end on usually is, keep fighting for your dreams, because when you fight for your dreams, your dreams will fight for you. So if you're interested in whatever area of law, I mean, keep working at it, to study hard, motivate yourself there. I mean, it's really difficult. And I think the only way we beat all of this is to come together as a community, right? So lean on your classmates. I think I shared this last week. I mean, think about a lot of the speakers I've brought in were classmates of mine at Osgood. And we may not have talked in years, but we recall the times that we spent together in an extracurricular activity, whether we were doing a moot, whether we were doing orientation week, whether we were planning a charity basketball game, or we were at the dean's formal, or whatever events that were happening. We remember those times. We're studying late at night in the moot court at Osgood. You remember that, you connect with that. So as much as education and legal education is important about learning the theory and learning the law and being great students and going through that process, it's just also about the people you connect with, right? I mean, you don't know who's going to be working at the firm that has an opening that's perfect for you, or you don't know who's going to be somewhere, I mean, even in education or something, where they'll say, hey, I'd love for you to come and be a speaker, and then you come in and get to talk, right? I think it's important to have all of those connections and maintain them. And it's really hard now with things being done remotely. So make an effort there to connect with your peers, make an effort there to connect, especially if you're a sole practitioner as well. It's even harder. You can't walk down the hallway and knock on someone's door and ask them. So I think we all have to look out for each other, whether you are in high school or whether you're in college or university or law school or you're a practitioner or wherever, that take time to find other people and connect with them and check in, because it's really important there to know and keep those relationships and keep them healthy, because you never know when an opportunity may come your way or when a client may come your way. It's just as important to preserve and nurture those things. All right, so thanks so much, Roxana.
Thank
We
you,
had a
JP.
couple of minutes here before I got to put the host hat back on. So it was nice to have a different perspective here and get to share a little bit more about the series. And certainly, if anyone wants to know any more, I know on Sunday I'm talking at 4:00 to a group of undergraduate students. They're from pre-law shadowers. So I'll share a lot more there about kind of getting from undergrad to where I am today and about getting involved in different areas of law, like duty counsel and stuff like that. So be sure to watch that out. And for everyone else, just go grab a quick bathroom break or whatever and come right back in 5 minutes, because we've got Haley Bettles there, small town paralegal, ready to go.
Thank you so much, JP. And thank you for everyone tuning in. And we'll see you again at 5 p.m. Bye.